Hello and welcome everyone. This is Team Space Cadets, made up of 10 product designers from the Department of Industrial Design and Innovation at AUT. One of the main skills that we bring to any brief is our in-depth design process, which we study in our course. This consists of investigation, generation of insights, ideation of possible solutions, followed by an evaluation of those concepts, and finally, the communication. The following process and presentation demonstrates our unique approach to this challenge and highlights that this process was started on Saturday morning with no background knowledge.
As mankind explores our universe and extends our range beyond Earth, the problems that we encounter become fourfold for every mile, every kilometre that we travel. Why do those problems become fourfold? It's because we haven't discovered the known. There is lots of unknown out there. And can we imagine that unknown, and how, when we have a problem, how do we solve that problem? Let's take an example. In May 2009, the rover vehicle on Mars was very happily wandering around, and then it encountered very soft soil. It stayed there. And for 8 months, scientists simulated and trialled many methods of getting the rover out of that soil. Unfortunately, they were not successful, and it became bog, and they had to abandon the mission. Now imagine that if there were men, women on that rover and it became bogged, how would they find a solution to that? One solution is 3D printing. From such small images to a new type of wheel that we started printing this last night at approximately 6 o'clock last night. And by this morning we had created a wheel out of very small components, and we had built up a shape we believe could fit that rover out of the Earth.
So this is looking at the very technical kind of a side of what you can do with 3D printing. Obviously there's all these unsuspected kind of problems you're going to have in space, and a 3D printer is perfect for these unforeseen circumstances. However, this is only the top of the iceberg. We wanted to dig a lot deeper and see what else we could find out that you could use 3D printers for. If it could be a human-centered kind of a design, how else we could use it for the astronauts that are on the space stations. So here's an astronaut. This guy, he's done quite a few little blogs online, so we got to know him really well. And it got us thinking that astronauts are humans too. So once they leave the Earth, they don't suddenly become astronauts. They're still people. And so they still have the needs that everyone else has. They're up in space in a different environment, but nothing else has changed. We have this video coming up that's showing he's trying to clip his nails. And I mean, on Earth, that's a fairly simple thing. What makes it any more complex when you're in zero gravity? Nothing but the fact that you're in zero gravity. But we can still have these really simple solutions that we can come up with here on Earth. I mean, you'll see it here. We'll let you have a little look at it first.
Hi, Chris Hadfield, I'm aboard the International Space Station, and I noticed recently that my fingernails are getting a little long. And for playing guitar, I want short fingernails. So it's time to cut your fingernails in 0G. How do you do it? First, fingernail clippers. I might have got some out of the bathroom. Of course, they're normal, but they will Velcro on them so that you can put them on your body. And now, if I just cut my fingernails here, fingernail bits are going to fly everywhere. And they won't fall to the ground. You can't sweep them up. They're going to float everywhere. They'll get in your eyes. People will breathe them. What we decided to do up here is go to an air duct where the air is pulled in. So here's a good one here, and and I'm going to set myself up to cut my nails.
Okay, so he's obviously come up with a fairly kind of ingenuitive kind of solution, use the air duct. But I'm sure that all of us sitting here are thinking of ways like how on earth could we make a little catcher for these little fingernails that are coming off. And I mean, our minds are already engaged thinking of these simple solutions, and yet it's in space. So we can actually use our intel to then solve these kind of problems. So, yeah, we're making space accessible to all of us.
Yeah, so we got to thinking with 3D printing, we can create these little solutions, these little products to solve problems. And as Catherine would say, just because they're in zero gravity, it doesn't necessarily overcomplicate the situation. There's no reason to be scared of solutions in space. We used the example of a whiteboard eraser. Somebody came up with a solution to put a magnet in it to adapt it to the situation. There's no reason why you can't do these things in space using 3D printing. And these kind of smaller problems are not the focus of agencies like the ESA. They've got to focus on mission critical engineering things rather than human centered things that affect their daily lives. So we wondered if we could use the accessibility of 3D printing to connect, educate and inspire those of us on Earth and the I'm not saying anything, sorry really. In a tactile way by providing a collaborative platform that uses crowdsourced 3D printed solutions to problems on ESA missions, and no matter how small, like for example.
So we've come up with this platform called Ideasphere, which is kind of an online collaborative sharing space, and it's mainly education focused. So here's an example of one way it could be used. You've got kind of like a primary school situation, you've got the teacher there that's gone online onto this platform and found some missions that the astronauts have posted, whether it's I need to figure out a way to catch my toenails or whatever other problems I've got. And so they've got this, in this example, they were thinking, how can we make it more entertaining for the astronauts? We can make a little 3D puzzle. So these little kids have come up with this 3D puzzle, which they could then 3D scan into a little file and then send off to the astronauts. And then all of a sudden, you've moved this idea that was here in their classroom up into space. It was such a powerful image.
Yeah, so it's kind of transcending traditional space education, where you're learning through actually becoming a small part. You're learning by actually becoming a small part of the mission yourself, which is really powerful for, especially for children, because since space is such a long-term, all missions are such a long-term prospect, if you're inspiring these kids at such a young age, it's going to have kind of a blowback effect when they grow up, and they grow up with this passion for space, and it reignites the passion and the importance of space travel for this generation that grows up. And furthermore, the way that they can interact with, the way that they interact in a way more tactile way, and are not just viewing these things going on and actually being a part of it. They may not be as, they may not see space as so much of a barrier, because as children they've actually learned to understand it in a physical sense as well.
Get that one. So if we can use this idea on something so simple as children, surely you could expand this idea and look at a wide range of spectrums and target different users. For example, someone who's very clever at MIT and how they would use this.
So they would log onto the website and see a new mission's popped up, have a look at it. Oh, and a new mission's popped up here.
Greetings, Midlands. We have a problem. The Mars rover is experiencing traction difficulties and is needing a replacement shield. Blueprints are available online. Help us out if you can.
Cool. So obviously they can see what's going on, and then for their ideas from there.
Okay. Any questions from the judges?
So I guess essentially what you're proposing as part of the project is the interaction between, I'm just trying to get it clear. The interaction between the children in classrooms and the space station, or you're proposing, I'm just not quite sure exactly
I
what it is that you're.
Education in a general sense.
Okay,
And the space station, one example is the children, but we ran out of time, so the other example could be at higher education, like connecting experts at a university level to solve bigger problems really, and to learn through that.
so that's your solution?
Yeah, as an educational platform that you can. The idea is that 3D printing eliminates the issue of distance. So everybody can have access. So the 3D printer becomes like it is a technical, it's a manufacturing method essentially, but it becomes more of a way to connect people here with people there because it's all digital. Things are sent digitally.
Okay, so that's your proposal, is that they need to take a 3D printer and utilize the ideas that are, okay, I see.
And I guess, so just picking up on what Candice was saying, so you're solving a number of problems and you're potentially solving some mission critical problems that come up.
Yep.
And in that way it's a bit like the Apollo 13 problem. If you've seen the movie and they will have to think of what materials they have on the ship and the guys have to come up with a box, right? So it's a bit like that. Is that what you're saying? So it's kind of a...
It can be solved at that level.
Yeah. Or it's just about using the same process and the same platform to engage students, kids,
Right.
with the whole issue.
Yeah,
Okay.
the whole education
The whole
system
education.
can benefit from
Yeah.
a platform like that.
So those guys on Apollo 13 would love it. They have a 3D printer, right? No more mucking around.
Okay.
Great.
Now, you talked about the wheel.
Mhm.
What's the smaller one? Did I miss, is that part of the assembly?
Oh, no, I think that's just an example of a 3D printed object.
And what is it?
That's what is it? I have no idea. This was
It's a cap for a bottle to be able to dispense your liquids easily.
It's just
I think these were just
for you to see what 3D printing is.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Oh, I have one question. Did you manage to sleep last night?
No.
They are tired. Okay.